Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Creative Amplifiers show. Remember where your mute button is. You might be seeing something different tonight. We unfortunately don't have Lisa with us. She can't make the show tonight, so you're going to have to put up with the likes of myself and Mark. It's the gruesome twosome again. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, as opposed to the script B, which was kind of, we've had so many great responses from the week before last when it was just the two of us that we decided to just do it on our own. And
that's not the case. Trust us.
That really isn't the case.
No,
it really wasn't the case. We were very sad when Lisa couldn't make it.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly. Well, we're
here to hold the fort.
We are. We're going to talk tonight about gear. In fact, not just gear, but what works in our sort of workflows. We're going to show you a little bit behind the scenes of our studios, because some people have been asking the question about, well, how do you produce this stuff? You know, do you have a ton of high-end gear? Do you do a mixture of cameras and things? What does your studio look like? And you might be surprised to find out actually what we do and how we sort of cobble this stuff together. So we thought we'd talk about behind the scenes. We're also going live to Instagram, which is swimmingly working. I can see to my right. The problem is everything is slightly out of sync. So I'm looking around like, which is the live feed here? So it does get a bit confusing, especially when the countdown timers are going on. So we're going live to Instagram via Ecamm, and we're also on our respective YouTube channels and LinkedIn and Substack. So if you're here, say hello, come and join us, and let's talk about stuff. But how's your week been so far, Mark? You've been busy, keeping on?
Yeah, it's been really good. It's coming to the silly season of music. My wife's in the middle of an opera season. I've got various school concerts and finishing up end of term stuff and that sort of malarkey. So my daughter's just come back from uni for the summer. So yeah, it's kind of all changed for a few months, and so it's great. It's nice to have a sort of a change of scenery from that point of view, and it's been enjoyable, and the weather's cooled down as well. I don't want to talk about the weather being in England, but yes, it's much more. You'll see in a minute. I can show you some of my little tools I had to buy when it was so hot the other week. But yeah, you have to get what you can when you need to have them.
Yeah, and that's what people don't realize. I think you do have to plan for these sort of events where it's hot maybe 4 or 5 days of the year, but if you're trying to film and stuff, you might need things to cool down. So that's interesting what you may be showing us there. So yeah, definitely take a look at that. So I don't know where you want to start. We can go back and forth a little bit, maybe show one thing from you and then one thing from me. Keep it fresh. It's entirely up to you.
Yeah. If you you spoke about the production side. So do you want to start just so that maybe, people who aren't Ecamm friendly,
sure,
or that sort of thing, they can actually at least sort of see what it looks like from a production point of view, as you're the one actually producing the show today, and then we can sort of, like I say, work into some of the gear and some of the bits and pieces from there.
I can definitely try. Now, I've never tried live demo mode in this scenario, so this could be quite interesting, but I'll try. I'll try it. Let's just see if we can do live demo mode here. Just a second. So what we're using right now, let me just see what that looks like first of all. That works okay. I think we can see the full screen. So what you're seeing right now is Ecamm Live, which is the live production software that Mark, myself, and Lisa all use. Now, you don't need to have Ecamm Live to do what we do. There's many other tools and pieces of software out there. It's the one that we use because it integrates really well with our workflow, our Mac and stuff. And what we've got is basically this software that's going to flip through all these different scenes. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but think of a scene as a page in a PowerPoint presentation. And within that page, you have different assets. Our assets in this particular case are 2 cameras side by side, and you can configure everything up exactly what you want. And Ecamm Live allows us to go live to all these different destinations. It also allows us to record the broadcast. As you can see here, we've got the vertical canvas on the right-hand side and the horizontal canvas on the left-hand side. So we're actually streaming in both and recording in both as well. So we can easily repurpose and do all that content as well. We've got the ability to switch different cameras, mix all different audio in and stuff like that. So this is the crux of our software. A lot of people use Meld Studio, OBS, StreamYard, Restream, and so on. And because I'm here in Portugal with not the best internet connection, I'm actually using something called Restream, which is basically just proxying all those streaming destinations for me. So I just send out one stream and it go and split them up into those various destinations so we can go live to YouTube and LinkedIn and all those various other things. So this is what we're using. This is the production. And Mark's super familiar with this, of course. Mark always used to produce the show. And I don't know why we switched. Maybe I became a megalomaniac and decided to do that. And I think it was something to do at the time with bringing people into a higher resolution Zoom production. Because Mark and I are actually both on a Zoom call, by the way. Just for an FYI, I forgot to mention that. Mark is actually coming into Ecamm via a standard Zoom call. And his camera is presented as a view, as you can see here in Ecamm. So we've got the ability, to switch things around to just Mark and me. And as I'm pressing my button on my Stream Deck, which we'll talk about as well, no doubt, in this program, we're able then to just finagle and switch scenes around so we can level up the production as we're talking through our workshop and our story today. So that's essentially Ecamm Live in a nutshell. I probably missed a lot of things out there, but I think as a high-end overview, that's how we're producing the show right now.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting because, anyone who knows me, who's not involved in this world, they often sort of say, how does it work and that kind of thing. So to see that and sort of picture all that sort of production stuff going on, I always think, those TV shows which are about TV shows. So you've got all the talent on stage and you've got the set, and then you see all the big cameras, and then you've got the people up in the offices, in the gallery behind, doing all the stuff that you're just doing on your own, just in front of you. And that's basically what Ecamm's able to do now, and we're able to stream and basically be like a TV production company, all in-house. And yeah, it's amazing. And I think you're right. I think it was a Zoom resolution thing, which is why we sort of changed the production roles backwards and forwards. And the other thing was that when I was doing it, when we were doing multi-places, I've got my broadband is larger in terms of bandwidth, so I could actually probably do all of those. Whether my computer would like it into whatever that is, 5 or 6 destinations, but technically it could. But yeah, I think, like I say, a combination of those things, what works and how it works for everybody, and the assets that we have, and what's going to make the best quality and also work for us individually as well, in terms of our time to be able to put the show together and to run it and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think originally I started producing it because you'd build the show out in terms of what it looked like, and Lisa was doing some of the sort of the prep and the behind the scenes stuff. So I think it made sense for me to actually do something as a threesome that actually producing.
But it's got easier though, right?
I could do.
And that's the thing, as we progressed with time. When we first started this, we were all pretty green when it came to live streaming. We'd done production before, but the workflow and the setting up and just having something that runs over and over again seamlessly we say, most of the time it's seamless, makes a big difference, and it does get easier as we go on. So there's not as much prep involved now. The show is already built, we reuse the scenes, we do various different things. So there's lots of other stuff that we do between the two, between the three of us, in terms of how we sort of produce the show. But overall, it's become a lot easier, hasn't it? And because we don't have as many guests on as well, that was one of the other things, that there was always research for the guests, bringing them on, making sure they've got all the assets. There's quite a bit of work involved, I think, when you have guests on your show. As you know, Mark, because your sort of podcast show, your video show is a lot of guests all the time. So there's always prep for them as well. And some guests are easier than others. Let's not deny it. It just depends what they're used to, right?
And also, yeah, exactly. And the other thing is a big shout out to Jill, actually, for Ecamm. One of the things I started doing is actually doing a screenshot of my guest and myself to make a thumbnail. through Ecamm. So
Right.
I set that up. But because my workflow was so ingrained, every now and again, because I've only introduced it recently, I'd forget. And so then I've still got to go into Canva and actually create it afterwards
yeah.
sometimes, because I forget to do the thing. But it's that kind of thing. It was such a great time-saving thing, and it meant they always looked the same, and you get a bit of personality and everything. And then because it wasn't on I hadn't changed my run of show, or hadn't changed my my spiel that I was doing afterwards. So then I thought I could do it before the interview, but it always seems a little bit premature to say, oh, let's smile together and, you know, get a nice picture for the thumbnail before you've actually done the interview. So it feels much better to do it at the end. But then, depending on how good I am at timekeeping, it's that kind of making sure that you finish with enough time to do all those things. But
Definitely.
yeah, that was big.
So, do you want to kick us off with showing us something, or giving us a little update about, you know, how you hang your production together? I don't know whether you want to show something first or want to talk about something. It's entirely up to you.
Well, should we talk about cameras and that sort of thing first, so I can sort of show the various different things? Because most of the time we spend on this show, obviously doing straight on, you know, sort of talking head.
Yeah.
But when I'm doing my podcast, I do it slightly differently. When I'm doing presentations or workshops and that sort of thing, I do different things as well. So I'm happy just to show you sort of the different sort of camera angles first of all, just so you still see that is a main feed, and then we can sort of go behind the scenes after that. So
yeah.
So this is my main, obviously the main one going through. And actually, let me do this on the fly.
On the fly, we can do that on the fly.
Show you. So here we go. So let me just show you. So this is obviously my main one. Then I've got an ob spot over there, which comes in at a slightly different angle, which is brilliant for when anything goes awry. So you've always got a camera that's set up in whichever way you want to do. And that's quite bright, isn't it, on there? It's different on Zoom than it is in my...
oh, it always is. Yeah, always. But you look, I mean, it looks pretty good. It's just a little bit brighter, but it's still in focus and stuff.
So we have that. When I've been doing podcast trainings and those sorts of things, if it's online and stuff and you want to show microphones or cables or that sort of stuff, so I've got an overhead which is on there as well. And just in case Doc's watching, I'm going to line up the keyboard because I know he hates it when they're not all in the same way. But it's brilliant. You know, you can sort of show whatever it is that you need to show, and I'll explain what those cameras are as well in a minute. So that's always really good to be able to do that sort of thing. And the other thing I'm able to do is actually using whether it's camo or anything like that. So let me just do this, and I can just... So this is just coming straight through from my camera. If I go this way, then I can actually see. There we are. We're talking about the heat and everything. So there's my little cooler.
Very necessary.
So here, sort of, no matter where you are, you can actually just, you know, see. You can see all the extra lights and all the various things. And I'll sort of walk through that again in a second. But it just sort of gives you a way of being able to just sort of take things off and sort of talk about something individually if you're going to walk around any more than you are in that particular thing. So I'm not sure any of those I've particularly needed to do before, but I was just going to add a camera here.
This is what we do, you see, on the fly production by changing cameras and scenes. Well, why not? That's that's what we love doing.
So let me see if I can do this while we're... I could change this, and then I thought the reason for doing this would actually be, so that will actually enable me to do that a different way. Actually, I'll tell you what I'll do. Let me show you my actual podcast one, because then that way it will make much more sense. So there we are there.
I think you have two audio channels coming in at the moment, just to let you know. I think you've got both.
There we are. That's the wireless one coming through. So I can change these around. Whoa, hello. There we are. So what I was doing there before...
There you go. Sorry, you were zoomed in on this side. Sorry, my bad. There you go.
Ah, right, okay. So there we are there. So I sort of had it sort of set up like that. So I've had my main one. So my guest would come in straight in front, or if it was you interviewing, you'd be coming straight in like that, and then I can in the corner can actually still be on screen and sort of talk it at a different angle, and of course you can zoom that in and all that sort of stuff as well. So may as well do that while we're here.
It looks good, because I think what you mentioned is that it's basically given the guest some feedback in terms of you are still in that scene, because it's hard for people to sort of envision when you are coming into an Ecamm production with Ecamm for Zoom. Yes, it's just like a regular Zoom, but what the guest will be seeing is this production that you guys are seeing now live on the channel. So it's not like a regular Zoom call. So if they don't see themselves, if they don't see the person they're talking to and just see themselves, then it can be a little bit distracting. So you had this idea of, well, why not put me still in the scene, but not like as focus, and at least it gives them something to look at, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then just like you've been showing now, is the fact that what you can then do is actually just go backwards and forwards, change side by side, or however you want any of those to be, and then you're kind of you're sort of good to go. But yeah, so that sort of works in many different ways, and having that second camera set up like that has been really, really useful.
You've got the second mic again.
Change scenes. It adds the second mic coming through again. It just keep knocking that off.
Sometimes you have to mute it on a different scene, I think, but it sometimes gets a bit tricky with having two mics. That's why I tried that this morning, and then I ended up muting everything on each scene, and I was like, I'm never going to be able to remember that, so I'm not doing that.
What does it sound like? Does it come through as an echo or a slap?
Yeah, it's just like a little delay between the two. So it's like you almost got like a tape delay going on. I mean, it's not terrible. It just sounds like you've opened a big window or something, and now you're in a bigger room or something. That's what it sounds like.
Brilliant. Well, shall I explain why that's happened? Because go ahead. Yeah,
because
I've done it purposely.
Yeah, it is intentional.
So
right?
it is intentional, exactly. So let me do this so I can explain. This is why I was going to do it. So let me put this camera back on here, and then I can show you. So currently, you can see I have my road coat, but I have to keep moving in and out. So what I'm going to do is I set my Holyland. So from here you can see this is now coming just through there, which means I can now stand up and then wander around and everything, and then show you sort of why I was doing that, because I thought if I was going to show other things and move around, then it would give you a chance to be able to do that. So let me bring this up and I can show you the two different setups. So currently you can see there, so I actually use my Zoom H5, which I've had ever since I started. So what was 2016, and I must have bought it maybe a year or so before when I was sort of trying it all out. So there, and that's just basically plugged in, and then I've got my Rode Procaster there coming through. And if I step sort of further back there, you can see I've got my lights. And I was going to talk about some of those old things as well. So that's my original pre-COVID ring light. Right. I thought I should just get another one, do something different. But the main reason for doing that was because it still works. I've got a relatively small room, as you can see. You can see the ceilings there, and you can see the blackout blinds and stuff there. And actually, as a fill light, it works really well. It comes off the wall and the ceiling a little bit. So I probably will replace it at some point. But while it still works, it kind of makes sense to keep using it. And it's the same thing with the Zoom as well. It works brilliantly as an interface. I can always change the audio in post if I don't like it, but the microphone sounds really good. And I think for the extra difference it would make, maybe it's worth doing at some stage, but it hasn't been worth it enough to kind of just get another microphone for another setup. Would I maybe do a duo? That might be one thing to be able to do, but then I could just get a microphone and do all the stuff in software and have a different type of mic if I was going to do that. And also, if I wanted to just be wandering around, I can do that as I currently am with the Holyland. And then that would make one of those things as well, because I do also often use, here we are here, my Rode Interview Pro. You can see there's all the things that I've been using recently. There's the other part of the Holyland, and I've got a fan there to go on the back of my camera when it was really hot before and all those things as well. But yeah, it just gives you a chance to sort of, I could just use that, and if that was plugged into a transmitter or a receiver and or a duo, then that would work as well. But it's kind of, I use it mainly for when I'm just recording and I'm on the road and doing those sort of different things and have really good quality audio as I come through.
Right.
If I step far enough back, you can see there I've got my OBS bot there at the top. I've got my main monitor to the right. I've got a small monitor just underneath my my prompter, which has got most of my Ecamm related stuff on there as well. And then you can see Neil and all the stuff you're seeing live coming through the front. So yeah, so that's kind of where we are with those sorts of things. And I shall bring that back in, and I can come and sit down. And is there anything?
Yeah, I was
that you want to ask?
I was curious about the monitor setup, because you recently you used to work on one monitor, right? Originally, I think, and then you had you bought the second one, and then you bought the prompter. So how has that helped you in terms of sort of the workflow? Because I know we spoke about this, I think, on the last show, like having one laptop monitor it's just painful when you're trying to do this stuff, especially if you're in a workshop and you're presenting things, whether it be a PowerPoint or even just some basic slides and things. So that has enhanced your workflow by having the secondary monitor and stuff.
Yeah, no end. I think originally I kind of tried to make it work because I had an iMac, and I think it was 27-inch, so it gave you more kind of space to be able to put lots of things on it. But as soon as I started doing any kind of presentation or bringing screen sharing in or anything like that, having a separate monitor was an absolute no-brainer, because you need to be able to have separate things going on to see them, and especially if you're doing preview mode in Ecamm where you're trying to set things up while something else is going out live, it becomes sort of near impossible. So as soon as I had two monitors, that completely changed the game for that. And then the prompter, as we mentioned last week, if you want to go back and listen to that, just being able to look into the camera to be able to see that, whether it's to having scripts or bullet points or just being able to look into the Zoom window to chat to somebody, makes all the difference. So this is perfect in terms of what I need for most of it. I could have another small monitor or an iPad or something if I was going to be drawing on there, or I wanted the comments coming through in a different way. But it sort of works, and just sort of down this way, where my sort of air conditioning thing is, my electric drum kit's going to be in there for the summer, because I've got a sort of a music drumming workshop thing that I'm doing with some of my pupils, and so I'm going to have my electric kit just sat there and just run that through into the computer as well, and then I can use all these different cameras then to show various different things.
That's cool.
And then get the audio coming through as well. And I think my OBS bot, having just moved my hands around, it's just gone completely bonkers because it thinks it's trying to track.
Oh, it's trying to track. Oh, well, there you go.
It's gone
I have to turn that off. So before we started the show, you were actually talking about the merits of potentially upgrading your audio interface and whether that should be done. I know you just mentioned about it before with you have an audio interface, which is the Zoom right now. It's very confusing, isn't it? Because you have a Zoom audio interface.
Zoom, but not Zoom, yeah.
And you've had that for a while. I guess the question is, what would be the reasoning behind upgrading for you if you wanted to? I mean, it's like the usual thing, isn't it? We talk about don't buy stuff unless you need it. Is it going to enhance quality of life? What is it going to give you in terms of flexibility? So I think we were speaking before about having maybe a dual input device for when you are doing podcasting, maybe the mobile podcasting things. But now, with the Rode Interview Pro, which will record 32-bit flow directly onto the microphone, and the Zoom that you've got, what's your thoughts now about the audio interface side of things? Because your microphone always sounds good, because it's a decent mic as well. So,
yeah, I think that's the thing. Is that if you sort of start with some good audio going in, then you're in pretty good shape. And I really like this microphone, and I started with some ATR microphones which were identical, so I had two channels going into Zoom if I was doing it in person, and I can still do the same thing for that. So every now and again, I think I ought to have a duo, because I haven't played around with the Rhodes very much like that. But then it's that kind of, there are other things I could upgrade as well. I could buy an Amaran sort of flat lights, which I could then have on this pole that's coming out, and so that would just give me a little bit more room, and just be one less thing to set up. It takes me less than 5 minutes to turn the lights on anyway, because the studio is sort of set where it is. So that's one thing I could do. I could just get like I say, another microphone, and do some processing in the software, or the ones that you do in the software, and then it stays in the actual microphone itself. I think the technology now is brilliant to be able to do that. And I like the fact, like I say, to be able to sort of transmit and receive from the Interview Pro into something seems like an obvious thing to be able to do. So it's that shoulda, woulda, coulda, how much do you need? How much should you have? And is it going to make more of a difference or not?
Yeah.
And I think the reality is that the sorts of things that I'm doing, if I'm going to upgrade something, I'm probably going to get more obspot cameras, because I'm probably more likely to be doing some more remote recording, multi-camera setup. So, maybe more camera. With that comes maybe more mobile lighting, depending on where you are. And with that comes, upgrading my laptop so that I've actually got a decently well-powered laptop that can do that on the move. Because I use my Mac Mini here, which is absolutely fantastic. But so it's just that sort of thing. Depending on where it takes you, it's like that's usually the next thing. And that's why I sort of wanted to show the ring light, because it was like that was better than having no light when I had nothing. I needed something to record on when I first started, which is why I got the zoom. And so if it becomes obsolete, then then you do need to do something. But if it kind of works within your flow, then why throw the baby out with the bathwater if you can just add something else? It kind of still works and keeps you going, if that kind of makes sense.
No, it does. And I'll talk about my sort of journey in a minute about getting rid of stuff that I've not used, which is interesting as well. So just a couple of comments. Hello, Anaya Print. How are you? Just you've got the Stream Deck XL Plus and we've got the XLR dock, connected these up together. Oh, cool. Let us know how that, and look at those comments. They're just flawless. What was I saying before the show? My bad. I think I'm on a different scene here. That's why I haven't set that up. You see, I should be here, and then I should bring them in. Let's just try that, because I hadn't set it up. There you go. That's how it should be. See, it's an operator error. Can we get replaced? Pretty much soon enough with AI. Anyway, so let us know how that dock and Stream Deck Plus XL. Now, that's something that is an interesting tool. And Saeed's on the call as well. And thanks for joining, Saeed. Saeed, I enjoyed Saeed's presentation the other day all about Stream Decks. And he was showing some very interesting workflows. Again, I'm always learning something from Saeed when it comes to what he does with Stream Deck and how he's using it. There's a few sort of tweaks and things that I've implemented already with that. But I'll talk about Stream Decks in a second, because that's like an afterthought. You don't need any of this stuff, as we said last time, to get yourself up and running, but to reduce friction and to make you more fluid when it comes, not this show obviously, but when it makes you more fluid, to be more professional when you're doing these live shows, then these tools are going to help you. But my philosophy is, if it's not enhancing your day-to-day productivity and it's just gathering dust on the shelf, then it's really time to think about selling it. And I was saying to Mark, I was going through all the gear that I bought over the years. Now, I've been accumulating gear back in the music days when I was in a band, and lots of cables and audio stuff and audio interfaces and microphones. And then as part of what I do on YouTube, I do get sent some gear as well, and that accumulates, and you think, well, I'm going to use it, am I not going to use it? So over the last sort of, I guess, 4 weeks, I've had a cull of equipment, and I've really sort of cut back on that from a studio perspective. There was stuff in the studio here that was just sitting on the shelf, not plugged in, not any use at all. So there's always time to go through that. And my rule is, if you haven't used it for 6 months, then are you really going to use it after that? I mean, there's always that occasion, right? You think, shouldn't have got rid of that because I need it for this job. But I think with technology today and the portability of everything, there's very little that you need to achieve really good quality results. If you've got a good camera and good audio and one decent light, you are set in terms of a studio setup. Just like you said, Mark, with your little ring light when you started, that's all you had. I started with a ring light, and it was one of those ring lights that had a fluorescent tube in them that got really, really hot, so you couldn't stand in front of it for too long. And then you had those weird glows in your eyes. How did you find a ring light, by the way? How did that work for you with your glasses? Because I had my ring light before I needed glasses because I was doing YouTube videos before my eyes got bad. Maybe it was, I'm just interested to see how that worked for you.
I think I always had it. I had enough knowledge that I never used it sort of right in front of me. I always had it as the same sort of position I might have as a main light,
right,
as a key light. So it was kind of okay, but I actually looked at some of my old videos that I did during lockdown, and at the time I was like, oh, this is great, no one's doing anything like this, and I look at it now and go, oh my, that's not quite how I would do it now as things go on. But I think that's the thing, isn't it? You learn and you grow and you change and you do whatever you do, and I'm sure the same thing will be the same in another 5 or 6 years. You'll be looking back going, oh, I wouldn't have done it like that now. Well, just the technology has changed in such a way that you, like you say, your workflow can change and it can look very different. And yeah, it's a combination of all those things. I think you just have to lean into where you are at the moment and not worry about the rest of it too much.
Yeah, I agree. A couple of people joined. Hey, Roy. No, we're not AI. Not yet, anyway. Soon. It's like the Max Headroom syndrome, if you remember that from the 1980s. We're all going to be at the end of that. Hey, Sue Ann, thanks for joining us. People in the comments, let us know what is in your studio. What's the one piece of tech that you like from a workflow perspective? That's what we're talking about tonight. And Saeed said, just sell that stuff when you can, because obviously tech does diminish over time. It doesn't really sort of hold its value depending on what you have. I think cameras and lenses are the exception to that, because I've sold some old lenses that I've had for years and they've still sort of returned quite a decent value in the resale market. But a lot of stuff is becoming very commoditized now. So microphones and things like that are just very cheap because they're good quality and they're cheap. So what can you say? Yeah. All right, I guess I'll show something on my side. Let me just make sure this is streaming first. It should be. So I'm just going to show you, just similar to Mark, just my setup, what I'm using day to day. Now, keep in mind that I've oh, is this working? Yeah. So there's video stuff that I do production-wise, and also when it comes to doing videos for product reviews and things. But my studio has been evolving over the last few years. A lot of this stuff is old monitors that I've cobbled together. Some of it is new. I've sold some of the stuff as well. So Mark, first of all, was talking about the Amaran Verge Max. Now my studio is similar to Mark's, and this camera is stalling a bit. My studio is similar to Mark's in the respect that it's a small studio. It's actually in an attic, so you can see the V of the roof there. And I invested in this Amaran Max because I had a Godox light with a huge softbox. So when I walked into the room, and Mark can testify to this, you almost walk straight into the light, and it was very hot. It had a fan on the back, but when you're in an attic room in Portugal in the middle of summer with no air conditioning in this room, it can get a bit hot. So I decided to go and get this particular light, and you can see it's very thin. It's only like about 3 centimeters, and I've got the crate for it because the crate helps diffuse the light. It's not as concentrated, and this thing is only on like 4% in terms of brightness. So it really doesn't sort of need to be, super bright for the room that I'm in, depending on what camera you've got. And how this is set up is my old monitor over here, which is what you're looking at right now, is an old Samsung monitor. It's an old, I think it's a 4K monitor, but it's running in 1080 at the moment. And this is where I have the Ecamm production that you've just been seeing. On the top of it is a Insta360 camera that I was sent by Insta360 to do a review. So I didn't buy that. In the middle is the prompter, which I can't live without now. Similar to Mark, when he didn't have one, you're thinking, well, yeah, I can live without that. And then for Zoom calls, client calls, and everything else, if you don't have a teleprompter, then I would highly recommend that you get this if you're doing a lot of Zoom calls and presentations and talking to camera, because it really does help you keep that eye contact. Don't have to get the expensive ones. Elgato was kind enough to send me this. I bought the original little one, which I still have. I actually use that downstairs for other calls and things. Down here is another flat panel old monitor that I'm actually using to show all the comments from Ecamm on. Below here is my iPad. I don't know why this is so sketchy, the Wi-Fi tonight, so apologies for that. But this is the iPad that I use for doing video pencil and drawing. It also serves as a sort of secondary monitor. And then the other monitor here, next to my water, which I shouldn't have near electronics, but there you go, is used for presenting. So I'll do my screen sharing on here. I've got Instagram up at the moment as well. And then my audio workflow is very simple. It's the SM7B that I've had for about 3 years now. That goes via XLR into the Rode Duo. And I have a Rode Duo because I plug in my keyboard that's over there, because I do play music from time to time. And also I plug in the bass guitar and mix things and stuff like that. And I like all the processing on here. But to Mark's point, I could have easily just replaced this with a single interface. I used to have a Focusrite interface, but I got rid of that a while ago with everything else. So if I stand back a little bit, my studio is pretty much, that's the sort of scope of it. There is a monitor over there, which I use for video editing, but mainly all the work for the live streams and all the production stuff that I typically do just sits here. So that's basically it in a nutshell. You'll notice that there's some Stream Decks and other things on there. But Saeed is asking our desks, how large is your desk in metric? So I've got a horseshoe desk shape. In fact, let me just show you. It's a bit hard to see. So there's one desk here, there's one desk there, and then there's another desk over in the back. It's like this is an L. It used to be a horseshoe, but I wanted to push the desks further back. So this is about a meter deep and 1.5 meters wide, I think. Yeah, 1.5 meters wide. I think it's 180 centimeters, something like that. It's just under 2 meters, I think. And the same for the other one. They're almost the same size. What about you, Mark? Is yours a large desk?
No, mine's smaller than that. So mine is, let me think, maybe a meter by 1/2 meter deep, maybe. I don't know what that would be. Whatever the standard versions of those would be. It's just a standard IKEA desk with a drawer. It's not a stand-up one or anything. And then just slightly further on, which is where my boom arm is actually held onto, is just the same sort of type of unit, but just with some drawers in it. So it's not particularly big. I quite like the fact that it's all compact. There's enough room for me to still write and stuff if I need to. I use this for streaming, but also use it for my workflow as well. My main monitor here is decent quality for editing and doing all that kind of thing. So yeah, so it's not a massive desk, not a massive space. And to your point, there were a couple of things you mentioned that I was thinking about as well in terms of gear. One is the Stream Deck pedal, which I know you didn't mention the pedal itself, but actually I always think that's something which would be really useful, forward, back, or home, or something which is just kind of be. And I was thinking it specifically because of the music stuff I was talking about before.
Right.
I'm going to be playing some drums, doing the camera switching and that sort of stuff. I thought actually just having another pedal there that I can just use to kind of make that really easy without worrying about my hands too much actually might be a really good thing to do.
Definitely.
And the other thing is I've only got the kit lens on my Sony ZV-E10, but with the crop and with the zoom that you can use in here, the actual quality still seems to be really good. But one of the things I probably would get is a Sigma or something like that, just to give me a bit more. But you've been here, you've seen the size of what I have. It kind of doesn't need it for my setup, but if I changed rooms or had a bit more space around me, then maybe that's something I'd invest in, just to give me that option in a different sort of scale. But yeah, those are probably the two things I think would actually enhance it, given if my circumstances were different. But the pedal probably would actually enhance it for something which is coming up, and I'll sort of, once I start doing that, I'll know whether it's actually worth it or not.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think if you're obviously using your feet with the drums and everything, and you could bring another iPad over or another Stream Deck, but it's just that convenience of then being able to still talk. You could even be drumming to an extent and not using the foot on the foot pedal for the drums, and then you could just, switch if you wanted to do quickly to another thing. And it's just having that convenience of being able to do that. I didn't think a pedal would be any use at all for my workflow. I was like, no, I'll never use it. But because you can use the pedal in different configurations, so I don't always have to use it like this where I can switch scenes. I could basically, use another Stream Deck button to switch the profile of the pedal. And now if I've got a presentation, I'll be in presentation left and right, going through slides. So there's so many different configurations. I think people seem to think that, or I was under the impression, at least when I got my Stream Deck, that it was like a one configuration, like that key was fixed for something and you couldn't reuse it. I had no concept of profiles. I had no concept of different pages. So the thing is, if you get a decent sized Stream Deck for your workflow, then really you don't need to sort of do anything else. And investing in a pedal for the convenience is a really good thing. And, touch wood, I've heard some stories that many people have had their pedals and they've broken after a while, or they started squeaking, and you have to take the springs out and oil them. I think Alec Johnson took his apart, oiled it, put it all back together again, so it was silent. But I think they're okay. I mean, they're not hugely expensive, and I do think that you can get another different type of pedal. And if there's anybody in the chat that knows of a different type of pedal that would work in that configuration for moving scenes around, I guess it has to be compatible with the Elgato software, but I'm sure there's other things out there. Lots of people use those little button clickers. I don't know whether you've used those, those little round sort of, it looks like your HoloLand mic actually, and they just click on it and that seems to work. And I think Jan at Creator Camp was talking about how he uses his all the time. And Saeed's in the call. So Saeed, are you a clicker or are you a mouse button person? So I'd be interested to know from a facilitation point of view, because it's really nice, isn't it? Where you can just talk with your hands and click and so on like that. Saeed says he's got nervous feet. There would be a lot of accidental switching on the pedal. My nan used to say that I've got St. Vitus dance where I couldn't keep still. So maybe that's not a good idea if you've got a pedal. Sue-Ann says I've got a new Stream Deck to set up, hoping to help the smoothness when streaming. Definitely, it will change the way that you work, and it doesn't have to be with Ecamm. OBS supports Stream Decks, obviously. Even StreamYard has plugins for Stream Decks now, so depending on what software you use, everybody knows that the Stream Deck is the de facto. And there's a lot of other manufacturers that use or have Stream Deck type of hardware, like Ulanzi have just brought one out, which is a fraction of the cost, but you can't use it with Elgato's proprietary Stream Deck software. So now you're running 2 bits of software on your, I don't know, maybe we need somebody to go and test it all out first, come back to us and tell us it's all working. All right. What's next on your things that you wanted to show the audience tonight?
Well, I think we sort of talked a bit about Ecamm, but I think being able to do what we've done tonight with Ecamm, from your point of view, you've sort of shown your ability to your production side and how you're actually doing that. But for me, to be able to do things like just changing the camera like I showed you before, or if I'm going to just change my mic, so and then now I'm not muted, but I'm on a different microphone, so you can sort of hear the difference. And I can mute and unmute and change microphones and all of that just literally with a click of the button, and to do that and to bring in the different cameras and all those sorts of things as a guest, because like I say, I'm not actually producing the show, but I am actually able to produce my side of things. And I've sort of, the last sort of month or so, I've been really sort of quite active being a guest on other people's podcasts. And it is amazing how quickly people start to say, oh, that looks good, or this sounds good, or how are you doing this, or how are you doing that? And you then start to realize, what certain software is actually able to help you with. So it's great to have sort of been able to share that. And Ecamm is just one of those things which has been a real benefit of being able to do that and just really level up what you're able to do and what you're able to look at. But the flip side of that is the fact that I know some people have come onto my show and they come on with loads of stuff in their window. So they've obviously either sat behind something which is their logo or something, or they've got stuff on their screen, which is great because they've seen it full screen and they think it all looks lovely. And then they come onto your show and then we do a talking head and then it's all cropped and it's all changed, and it's really hard to actually make that look good because I'm in control of it all of a sudden. I don't just want them full screen because we're doing it in a slightly different way.
Right.
So I tend to find less is more now. I'll come in with just a clear feed, and allow them to do what they want to do with it. I can add stuff if need be, or if they particularly want me to share something, then I can do that. But I tend to come in sort of naked, even from a sort of a kind of a feed point of view. Hopefully sound good and look as good as I can, but not over either publicize anything or brand anything, because the reality often at that point, if they're going to tell you who you are, you're talking about your podcast or your book or your product or whatever it happens to be. So people know that already. They don't necessarily need to see your logo on someone else's show to do that. So yeah, that sort of less is more, even though you have more options, it's been quite a good learning curve for me.
No, I agree, because I think the whole point of coming on a show like this, if you were branded now, it wouldn't look right. The whole point of you coming on this show is that you're a guest, even though it's your show, if you know what I mean. Coming on this show as a guest, you want it to be no branding around you or anything else, and this is the show with our branding and our colours and things like that, and that's why we like to keep this show as tidy and as clean as possible as well, where we don't have a lot of sort of overlays and things like that. But yeah, it's a good point, and maybe that should be added to people's questionnaire as well in the guest questionnaire. I don't know whether you have that in an intake form. Come into the production in Zoom without any branding as a clean feed. It makes the workflow easier, and that's something I haven't considered, but I've seen it a few times with people coming in with their stuff and like, can you remove that? Is that possible? And sometimes it's baked into their production, so then it becomes very difficult for them to remove it on the fly. So as you said, then you have to try and crop it out, which doesn't look great. Saeed was just making sure that you said, did you say show up as a guest naked? Just checking there. That's fine.
I think I said naked feed, but I did mention naked.
Yeah, you paused that a little bit. That's the thing. That's interesting. Yeah.
Comic effect.
Sue-Ann says that she's going to be trying Riverside that's supposed to integrate with the Stream Deck. Now, I've never tried integrating the Stream Deck with Riverside. I do have a Riverside account. I've been testing that out. I haven't used it as much as I'd hoped. That's another thing I may not be renewing come subscription time. But, there's all these things as well that you have to consider and so on. And Sue-Ann does say, I think that's a good point about the clean look. Yeah, because whoever's coming into your show, I know, Sue-Ann, you do podcast video shows as well as audio shows. So yeah, if somebody's coming in fully branded up, it's going to look very unbalanced in the show, I think. So just look at all the main shows that you see, the very popular ones on TV and on YouTube at the moment. It's all, there's hardly any branding, is there really, just in the actual production itself. And you're almost letting the guests speak for themselves because they are the talent. I wanted just to quickly just show, because I did forget, if I go back to the iPhone a second, if I just go here and go to the overhead camera instead, which is the tiny, where's it gone? I've lost my camera. It's disappeared. It's gone to sleep. No, it's not. See, the power of Ecamm, it's great until you can find your camera. All right, so this is my overhead. Now, Mark was showing his overhead as well. In fact, you might want to explain what your overhead shot is and what it consists of in a minute. I'm just using a tiny 3 OBSBot camera as my overhead. I was looking originally to have something which was way overkill, which was like a big GH5 old camera, but it was so heavy and it was above my head. I'm thinking, if that thing falls off, it's going to break this. It's going to break the keyboard. It's not good practice. Just be safe in your studio. So I've got one Stream Deck here, which is used on one page all the time. This is for going live and switching the lights on and off and all that kind of stuff that we've shown you before, and stuff like that. And then this is for writing on. And to your point, Mark, about showing up on camera in Ecamm or any other software, there's people like been saying, oh, you can draw on the screen. It's not going to draw on this one because I haven't enabled it. But like, how are you drawing on the screen? So people like ask this question, and just being able to either switch a scene, bring in another camera source, or even show your presentation in a specific way, just really, I think, enhances the production that people just don't know is possible, specifically when you're looking at a standard Zoom call. And then over to my right-hand side, another 2 Stream Decks, because you can never have enough Stream Decks. Again, I was thinking, get rid of all these Stream Decks and just have one like 32 button one, because I made the mistake, as many people do, when you buy a Stream Deck, you buy I just bought the smallest one. I think the first one was the Stream Deck Mark II, like 16 keys. I thought I'll never use 16 keys. Oh yeah, they're all filled up. So what about yourself? What's your Stream Deck desk look like and setup and things like that?
So let me show you. Could do a mic change as well, just because I can.
Fancy.
So, fancy. So here we go. So there's mine. How many buttons is that? I'll let you count them.
16, right?
So
8, 6, 9, 12.
So
16.
yeah. So the reason I do that is it gives me
15,
everything that I want. 1 + 2 is 3. Yeah, so it gives me everything that I want. Basically, on this particular one, which is what I use for my podcast, I've got all my camera related stuff at the top. So there's me on my own, there's 2 guests, there's the main guest with me in the corner. I've got a particular screen that I use with a bit of text on it as well, and then I've got my end button. So I can basically switch between all of those just through a normal podcast interview, and that covers everything that I want. And then I've got a sort of a get out of jail free if I want to do just back to me. I've got the option of starting and stopping the recording. I've got a camera, photo taking button on there. I've got the sponsorship button on there, and then I've also got my forward and back, which I often use if I'm then doing a presentation, and I can just move forward from that point of view. So that's kind of how I use that. But interestingly, I think we talked a little bit about this last week, is with the different pages, that's what I do for my sort of podcast setup. If I'm doing a live show, the main buttons at the top stay sort of the same. I might have an extra couple of different things because I've got the comments and those things as well. But it feels like home when I go into the next page. It's like I'm in a different world. So my podcasting one, I know where they are. I know where it finishes. I know how to take that screenshot. I can start and stop the recording. Don't even ever need to sort of look down almost. Although I sort of do, because I quite like sometimes just the change of the look and that sort of thing. But that aside, whereas the live stream, the things and the cameras are sort of in the same place, so I'm still aware of all those things. But the comments and those other things, that just sort of becomes like being in a different room. So, or driving a different car. It's like, my wife's car has a different, the indicators are a different side or whatever. I don't get confused when I get in there. You just sit in the car and then all of a sudden you're kind of just driving a different car in a slightly different way. And it's almost like that with the Stream Deck. It's like this page works for the podcast, this page works for the live streams, this page works best if I'm doing a presentation, all of those things. And that's kind of the way my brain seems to work. I can just sort of change that. I know where I am, and then it's all there. And the other thing to probably to mention is just the idea of practicing. It's that kind of, that muscle memory. And, I've done like 500 podcasts or something. It kind of just becomes second nature. But to begin with, or if I change something up, I do actually practice what that's going to look like or how it's going to be, because, you want to kind of make sure that you feel confident in it. And I think maybe that's sort of my education background. It's that kind of, once you then think you've got it, then just repeat it a few more times, because then when you are live and it all starts to go a little bit wrong or whatever, the muscle memory kicks in, and you know that actually that button on the far top left is going to be the one that says be right back, or it's going to kill something, or I can't find what I need to do, and this button on the top right is going to take it back to me, and I know I'm faced the camera and I can sort of waffle for a little bit, and then I can take me back to the guest. And certain things that are just going to be okay, and then you can kind of regroup. But yeah, so the practicing as well as the familiarity, I think, is a really interesting one, and yeah, wouldn't live without the Stream Deck. But I don't feel the need to upgrade to something bigger. I think the pedal would do a different job. Definitely. And I quite like, as you demonstrated with yours, it's like this small Stream Deck puts my lights on and off, sets my scenes up, or sets my studio up in different ways. This other Stream Deck does a different job, and the other one does a different job. And I think that would work for me as well. I think that I could kind of see making a positive difference as well. But yeah, that's kind of how I use it.
I like the muscle memory piece. And the way I use my Stream Decks as well is I have different profiles. So I have like 3 profiles in Ecamm. So for those of you who don't know, think of a profile as just basically a suite of scenes. It could be a different PowerPoint presentation, and you just upload a new one depending on what you're actually presenting. So for me, I have the Creative Amplifiers production as you see here. The second one would be my own live show that I go live on Thursdays, and then I have a Zoom profile. If I'm actually joining other people's Zoom calls, I'll have a different profile. Now, some people just have all their scenes in one big massive profile, which is fine, but I don't like that because I like to have my stream decks, because I'm crazy, I like to have my stream decks configured in different configurations. So I have a mechanism whereby I'll press one stream deck button. It's called the profiles folder. And in that is all the profiles in Ecamm. I'll click on that. And then as I press that button, it switches the Ecamm profile into the one that I want. And then it sets all the stream decks up with their respective pages and buttons. So I know that when I'm on Creative Amplifiers, I've got all my main scenes here in the Creative Amplifiers colors. And then I've got obviously the stream deck for any music in the background, and then obviously things for going live and bringing in comments and stuff like that. And then it's completely different when I'm on a Zoom call, where my Zoom profile has buttons specifically rated to Zoom, like mute everybody on the Zoom call, admit everybody. So all those buttons are ready there. So that saves me having like a 85 key Stream Deck for all eventualities, where it's easier for me to switch those profiles within Stream Deck associated with the profile or the production, if you like, on Ecamm. So that's what I've been using recently. And then I've added the additional workflow of using Moom with my Stream Deck plugin that I created, shameless plug, that actually then changes the layout of all the windows on each of the monitors associated with those profiles. And it's just one button now, so it's seamless. So when I come in, because you want to have as least amount of friction. I know we use that term a lot, but it is right. You don't have any hassle when you're coming in to do your production. So that's pretty much how I use my sort of Stream Deck workflows at the moment. Dan has kindly joined us on Instagram. Hello, Dan. We're not seeing you for a while. Unfortunately, I can't bring your comments in. I don't know why. So I'm going to find out why that's not working, but I can see your comments here. Basically, Dan says, I've got 2 Stream Deck XLs with a Stream Deck Plus in between. Ooh, now that's meaty. So that's everything. It's like a control center right there. By the way, have you seen that Stream Deck that they brought out a few months ago? I think it was the last Elgato. It might have been NAB or even last year. I think it was last year. And so it's like a rack. It's like it goes into a 19-inch rack mount for a studio, and it's got about 5,000 buttons on it or something like that. Nobody's bought that yet, as far as I'm aware. We were betting that Alec might have got that and put it in his studio, but no. That's overkill.
Even Alec hasn't got one of those.
No, it's too much. It's too much. Saeed says he's seeing more and more people with 3D printed Stream Deck mounts under the desktop. That's a cool idea. So I've seen them for audio interfaces. So I've seen people with a Focusrite under their desk. So, you know, you just got your headphone button, everything's tucked away. But having a Stream Deck would be here. I'm not sure I like that. I don't know if there's like, you know, when people have keyboard drawers under their desk and they pull it out and they type and then they push it. I think that would be the same thing for a Stream Deck. I think I have to have everything like there. I don't know if I could reach under. My muscle memory is not that good. You'd have to know which key. I don't know if that would work. I'll have to look at that online.
Yeah. Just can you put me full screen? I'll show you.
Yes.
I mean, talk about. So you can see my sort of default position is, you know, I've got my old mouse here because my other one died recently. But you know, I can cover what I need to here, and I've got my hand here for my Stream Deck. And as long as I'm in that position, there's almost nothing I can't get out of relatively quickly to solve any particular problem. Hence the reason the pedal will be good, because it gives me an extra thing to do as well. So I think if I have multiple Stream Decks in here or something, I wouldn't be as comfortable in terms of that sort of live or in the here and now, unless doing, like you said, it serves a completely different purpose. So
that's an interesting
for
point.
me, that kind of, I'm set and I sort of know where I am, and I can, you know, my mouse is moving and I can bring it across the 2 or 3 monitors and do what I need to do. Hopefully don't lose anything else. But that I kind of quite like as my sort of safety mechanism, I guess. That's
the musician in you, see, knowing where everything is, right? So you're poised at any moment, ready to go, which is interesting. It's the muscle memory, right? Because I guess does that Stream Deck ever change then? The buttons on your Stream Deck, does that ever change with the profile, or you have pages? But
a little bit, because I've got different profiles for
Yeah.
different things. So then the concepts are sort of the same. My top levels, generally the cameras and the comments are slightly below and whatever, but it will change for different profiles as well, but not enough for it to make as much of a difference.
Right.
And but you're right about the muscle memory thing, and it's interesting from a musician's point of view. As a percussionist, you're sort of sat in the middle of a million instruments, and it's not always the same because each show is different. If you're sat on a drum kit, then it's relatively the same. Your setup is what it is. But as a percussionist, one show you might have a xylophone and a glockenspiel in front of you, and the tims to the side, and a set of tubular bells behind, and all that sort of stuff. And the next show might be completely the opposite.
Right.
So it's kind of building up that muscle memory so that in the heat of battle, in the middle of a show, you immediately know that your right hand's picking this stick up and your left hand's doing that, and you're going to turn and look at something different and all those sorts of things. And it kind of works in the same kind of way. So I think that's definitely been an asset from my point of view, actually learning it in that way.
Apologies, just give me 1 second. Just had an error come up, and I don't know what that is. I don't know whether we're still live. It just says, I've never heard this before. Stream duration limit exceeded. Stream integrated amplifier stopped. This could be because the maximum streaming duration permitted in Instagram has been reached. Well, that's interesting. So Instagram tops out after an hour, just as Jill from Ecamm joined. I didn't know that. So anybody in the chat know that the streaming limit's on Instagram for an hour? We've been longer than an hour on Instagram, right?
I would assume so, but then I don't know. Because sometimes we've gone and it's not actually worked. So it would have finished earlier than that.
Okay.
It's not a setting or anything, is it? That's generally what it does. But then, of course, these things update so often.
I don't know what's going on there. I'm going to end the live video anyway, but on Instagram, we're still trucking on, apparently, on the interwebs. But that's bizarre. Well, I'll have to find that out. That's something I did not know today. So anyway, you got to test these things out, right? So thanks, Meta. Anyway, so it doesn't make it easy. So he says 1 hour on Instagram is basically 112 reels. That's probably about right. I didn't know.
No one's watching now.
Nobody's watching now anyway. No, we are at the top of the hour. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Any nuggets of fun stuff from your journey? Have you got anything that you want to get rid of that you've not used? That's the other thing. So do you pretty much use everything that you have bought in your studio so far? Because I mentioned I've got rid of a ton of stuff recently. So I feel like I'm cleansed now. But yourself, anything you could do with that?
No, I need to add. I think.
Okay, you're in the additive stage. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I think because I've not gained stuff en masse. It's all been quite purpose driven.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there are other things, like a USB SSD card and ports and hubs and all those sorts of things, which you sort of add. Things like we talked recently about a dummy battery for the camera, which I've got recently as well, which seems to have made all the difference. Frees up a USB port, and also takes the pressure off of overheating a little bit more, and the fact you've got the power going on. So I think everything I've got kind of keeps adding and adding. The question will be, maybe if I get another ob-spot or another couple of ob-spots so I can do a remote thing, do I then still need to keep a Logitech camera overhead? Who knows? I'm thinking about upgrading my phone, so I then just use that as my second, third or fourth camera in the studio, just so that we can literally do what we've done today. So no, I don't think I've got anything to get rid of, but yeah, definitely a few things I would probably add, as we've sort of mentioned already. And
it's a balancing act, isn't it, as well? It's what's the thing that's going to make the biggest difference to you and your production from day one? And probably, I know we've been talking about this, it's probably going to be the laptop is probably going to give you the biggest bang for your buck to start with, because it gives you more flexibility and to do whatever you want. The rest of the stuff you can just bring with you and add. And the thing is, you talked about docks and connectivity and things like that. These I feel they're just painful, because you have to buy them because you run out of ports, right? There's nothing you can do. If you need to plug more stuff into your into your system, then you need to buy more USB Thunderbolt docks and things like that. And these things aren't cheap. They run 200, 300 bucks at a time, depending on which one you get, like for the CalDigit or I think I've got the OWC. Either way, they're not cheap. I mean, the argument, the counter argument to that is, well, we'll have less stuff, and then you don't need to plug all that stuff in. So, but it's a balance. It really comes down to these incremental changes and tweaks that you do to your workspace that help the production. Like, for example, just real quick, I made a change only the other day, and it's a very simple change. The monitor that you just saw to my left, where I have all the Ecamm production, that was actually over the other side, and I couldn't really see it very well because the light was in the way. So just flipping things around and bringing it closer to me, just so I can still open the door, but get close enough to do maybe a live demo or something on there, instead of squinting and trying to squeeze it all onto a different monitor. These are just silly things, but you only know how to change these things around and what difference they make by actually doing the production work, doing the live shows, recording your content. And then you understand, well, if I move that over there, or if I did this, then it would be much easier for me to show or to demo or to do whatever you want. And it takes time. I mean, we've been in our studio spaces for, this is my 3rd year in this particular space. I'm not going to tell you how many times I've unplugged cables, changed things around, moved desks and so on. But you've just got to find that sweet spot. And sometimes you're limited by the physical characteristics of the room, and there's only so much you can do. So, yeah.
And the one thing I've not mentioned is the fact that in front of me, I've got this sort of big C stand with which has got 2 cameras on it, the prompter,
it's fantastic,
which has then also got my camera on it and a light. And it's brilliant because it's on wheels and you can move it around. So I could easily make this a remote studio from that point of view. But just knowing that it's really strong and it's enabled me to do all of those things made all the difference. Because when I first started, I had my desk slightly closer to the half wall that's behind, and I had an old camera tripod that was half on the wall and half on my desk and half propped up to the perfect height. But you're like, that's going to fall off at any minute, or it's going to do whatever. But it was that neat, it worked absolutely fine. But then as soon as I needed the extra stuff, it's like, well, I need to get a decent stand. And then do I do lots of different stands? And then floor space became an issue. I was like, well, if I can get something strong, then I can run all these things off it. And then that just makes life so much easier. And then I was able to pull everything a bit closer this way, which sort of helped with a little bit of stuff behind me. Meant I could get to the cables and stuff easier in front of me if I needed to unplug anything or check anything out. All of those things, which made a massive difference, which before was kind of a pain because you're up under a desk trying to look in a really small space and all that kind of thing, and it's those small things, like you say, it's kind of when needs must, and you've had to change that cable for the 5th time and you still can't quite realize which port it's going into because you can't quite see in that
it's a nightmare
enough to fit it in and that sort of thing.
I think when I saw your studio for the first time, which is funny because we've been together and worked and met each other in different places and gone to different places, but it was great to catch up with Mark. Was it last year, this year? When was it? It was this year, wasn't it? Was it this year?
It's like a month ago.
It was a month ago. Losing my mind. Yeah, so only a few weeks ago that we met up and seeing how the configuration has sort of evolved and seen it from behind the scenes, because you've no idea what the studio looks like. Like behind me, people keep saying, is that a green screen or whatever? No, it's just a room and so on. But it's interesting to see when you actually go to somebody's studio and then these incremental bits and pieces that people have added, because it inspires you to think, that's a good way of doing that, because you're always trying to find ways around, as I said, the environment and the space that you're working in and things. And that C-stand, I think, has been a genius addition to your setup, because now you've got everything that you can configure with all those arms as well. So you've got these articulating arms that you can move things around, which is difficult. Yes, wonderful.
Yeah, it's why just watching loads of people's shows are really good, because, especially they sort of talk about what they've done and why they've done it. And I was watching one of Adrian Salisbury's one recently about a studio he's just been building for somebody.
Yeah, it's cool.
And it was that kind of, I'm really purposeful about this, and I really want to get it to like this. And he still had the same issue we all have, which is kind of, I need to get all these horizontal lines lined up the best I can, and I need to do this in the tripod and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, doesn't matter who you are, certain things are just a pain.
Yeah.
And then you still got your cable management, and you still got this, and you still got that. And yeah, I think then he just finds something. And that's certainly what happened with that C stand, is I saw someone talking about something like that, and I thought, that solves my problem.
Right.
And then you can just do a bit of research, and if it's someone it's always nice to use an affiliate link or whatever and help those people out in whichever way you can support them. Yeah, I really like that.
It's one of my favorite pastimes, looking at other people's studio bills on YouTube, because you get inspiration. As you said, the behind the scenes is really cool. A couple last comments and then we'll start to wrap up. Jules, thank you, Jules. You were on the show with Stream Live guys before. Thank you so much. Have a clean sounds, perfect light. Bravo. We learned a lot. Oh, well, that's nice. Anything that we can do to inspire people. Again, you don't have to spend a fortune, just little incremental changes. Lighting, microphone, before anything else, in my opinion. Saeed, am I the only one with 3 boxes of spare cables? Because you never know. No, I've got a box of spare cables, don't worry. There's lots of USB cables and Thunderbolt cables in the background, and you don't want to throw out a Thunderbolt cable by mistake, because they are not cheap.
No. And also, here's something which is really weird, is I have a mic cable, which I know doesn't work all the time because I've replaced it, but I still have that cable marked as cable that might not work. Why is that still in my studio?
Oh, just throw it away. I got one with a tick on, actually, that I know that works for video. It's bizarre. It's a white Thunderbolt cable, and I tested them all. And I put a little black marker tick on there to know that it works for video. Anyway, we wanted to tell you about a couple of things before we do wrap up. Let me just go to this one. So we do have our workshop that we moved from June, and we're actually going to run it now on September the 14th. So all the stuff that we've been talking about, building a show, getting a show together, setting everything up from your idea to either going live, and live means either going live or live as in a production that you've got in terms of recording, audio workflows, whether it's just an audio podcast, a video podcast, just a YouTube video, something that you want to do on the side, whatever it is, you're very welcome to come and join us in September for a 6-week cohort. It's limited to 6 people, 6 weeks, and you can sign up with the link creativeamplifiers.live. That is going to help you get from just getting started all the way through to getting a full production show. We wanted to show you what we've done and help you with that, because we've had to go through that respectively with our own shows and as a collective. So come and join us at creativeamplifiers.live and sign up today. You'll be registered, and then we'll come and see you on September the 14th. And next week, if you want to come and join us next week, we have our final show of the summer, because we like to take summer off as well. We like to take our little summer break. So it's our summer break video show, Monday, the 22nd of June at 3 p.m. Eastern. And if you scan the QR code, that'll take you to a Luma page where you can come and join us in the Zoom room. You can be a guest on the show. You can tell us all about what you've been working on in 2026 so far and what you've got planned for the rest of the year. Share some tips, gear ideas, anything that you want. We love having people on the show. That's what Creative Amplifiers was all about originally. I would like to get back in the game and bring some good people on the show and have a chat to us about that stuff. So if you want to join us, scan that QR code. The link is also going to be in the description of this show, and you can sign up today. You'll get a Zoom link. And come and join us. Anything else before we close up tonight?
I think my final thing would be sort of related to the accelerator program, but also sort of related to the sense of sharing information and all of that, is the fact that it's an ongoing thing. The number of times I send you a message saying, this isn't working, what about this, or I've heard about this, and we go backwards and forwards. So the program itself is about really taking you from idea and all the bits that you need, but it's not kind of that's it, then you can disappear forever. You sort of become part of what we're talking about today. You're part of our world, part of our community, and so think of it as a long-term support with that kind of initial sense of that we can really sort of hold your hand and take you through all the bits and pieces that you need. And we won't just disappear then at the end of 6 weeks. We're going to be able to support you, and there'll be other things that we can help with as well. So think of it as the start of your journey, and then a continuation beyond there as well.
Definitely. I mean, we all help each other out. We're all part of different communities. And as I mentioned before, one thing being part of the video production space is that there's so many like-minded people who are so willing and generous to help with their time and everything else. And that's what I really like about this community over and above others. Sue Ann says, thank you very much. You're very welcome, Sue Ann. And George, it's been a while. Hello. There's no quiz tonight, George, but if there was, you know who would have won. There you go. But thank you for joining us, George, and everything else. And please come and join us next week. The link is here for the summer break show. We'd love to have whoever wants to join us on the show. Tell us all about what you've been up to, because we miss you guys. We haven't seen people for a while, and it'd be nice to sort of catch up and know what everybody is doing. All right. With that said, 50 minutes past the hour. Look at us just chugging away, talking. It's been fun. Well, Mark, thanks a lot for being here again, as ever. And hopefully next week we'll have Lisa back on the show. So until then, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next Monday.